Hello and welcome to another episode of Recharge Wrestling. Today you've got Crust and my main man Fisher.
Hello guys.
And we are here as usual to take you through this week's WWE, starting with SmackDown, then going on to Raw. No major news this week, I don't think, unless Fisher's got something up his sleeve.
No, not really. We'll talk about obviously the fact that Vince wasn't at Raw this week because we were mentioning that he was at Raw last week, and we'll talk about differences between the shows. But in WWE wise, there isn't much major news this week really, other than stuff that we saw on TV. So
cool. Should we go straight into SmackDown then?
Yeah, we might as well just crack on straight into it. Let's start with the opening match of SmackDown. Brawling Brutes and Imperium in a 6-man tag. Yeah. Obviously, Gunther retaining his title at Mania. Sheamus seems like it still isn't done with Sheamus and Gunther because they're carrying it on.
Yes.
And they had a 6-man tag match, which was, as you'd expect, very, very good.
On paper, this says banger all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it did deliver. Sheamus won the match for his team with a brogue kick on Giovanni Vinci. So I'm guessing we're still going to get Gunther and Sheamus again.
I was weirdly surprised that Da Vinci took the pin, but really, who do you pin? It's a bit difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always going to be one of the Imperium guys. Do you think maybe we'll get Sheamus and Gunther again at Money in the Bank, and they do the UK show again? Because they did it in the UK last time, didn't they? And had Sheamus lose. Do you think they could do it again in the UK again, and maybe Sheamus wins this time or something?
It's definitely a possibility, but yeah. I have seen a rumor that they fancy. You've probably seen this, but they're fancying Gunther versus Brock Lesnar is being thrown around. Have you seen that rumor?
I have, but I mean that was rumored in Mania, and then it's been rumored for SummerSlam as well,
I think.
So, but to be honest, it'd make more sense to get the title off Gunther if that happens. I would say, because I don't think going for the Intercontinental title makes much sense.
No.
So that you could have Sheamus win Money in the Bank and then have Gunther Brock at SummerSlam.
I'd love to see Sheamus win the Intercontinental title. I'd love to see that match again, quite happily. And I think he sort of deserves it, and also it gives him that Grand Slam, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. This is the one title that's evaded him all his career, so it'd be good for him to finally do it. I thought I put it to him to pull the trigger at Mania. They didn't. I understand why, because Gunther has been a great Intercontinental champion, and you could keep it on him for even longer. But I do think they might move Gunther onto other things soon. So yeah, but it's interesting, and this match was a good way to start SmackDown. And just talking about, SmackDown was obviously last week we talked about Raw after Mania and how Vince was very involved in it. It had hardly any wrestling. SmackDown and Raw this week were both much more in-ring focused.
Triple H back to his old ways, isn't he? So
there was some Vince involvement, but it's remote. It was remote. He looked over it and just sort of made the odd change. I did notice he said things like medical facility rather than hospital, which they weren't doing before, which is a Vince thing. And just some of the phrases they used. But other than that, it felt more of a Triple H heavy show, particularly when I saw the SmackDown card, because it was guys that Triple H would use.
That first match is a very Triple H match, isn't it?
Yeah.
Imperium vs. Brawling Brutes is not a Vince McMahon match. No, I really enjoyed it. It was like chalk and cheese. Cool. This week was chalk and cheese compared to last week's Raw.
Yeah, I thought this week was much better, particularly Raw, which we'll get to. Continuing on from SmackDown, we had another sort of Triple H style match, I would call it, with Ricochet and Ivar having one.
So random.
A bit random. Obviously, they were involved in the same match at WrestleMania. They didn't have a match themselves, but they were in the 8-man tag.
Well, it's good to see that it's sort of a bit of a show, really, for Ricochet, because he won against Ivar, which is quite because he's such a big guy. I think that's quite an achievement in a way.
Ricochet seems to be very, obviously, he is a Triple H guy. We know that from NXT, and he seems to get quite a decent push since Triple H has come in. I like the pairing with Braun Strowman. I think it's quite good for both of them at the moment. Keeps them both doing something. and Braun can kind of throw Ricochet around into things, which I think is quite cool. And yeah, this match was just pretty good. Obviously, both tag team partners were banned from ringside, but Valhalla was there, but she wasn't very effective. And I find her role at the moment a little bit odd. She hasn't wrestled a match since she's been back. She just kind of stands there at the side.
Feels very much like the AEW managers are, or valets. Because there's a lot in AEW that do that you think, what do they actually do? And I guess it's there just for effect, isn't it? I guess she's there for effect.
Yeah.
Similar to Scarlett, she doesn't get involved too often.
No, Scarlett either, I suppose. But Scarlett, I do think, adds to the presentation, whereas I don't really think Valhalla is at the moment. It's just something I think they could use her more in that sense if they want to bring her back. I just don't see the point in what they're doing with her. But another, like I say, a good match. Ivar's actually got high flying for a big man as well. So they were
he's interesting, isn't he?
They were flying around quite a lot in this match. Obviously, you expect that from Ricochet anyway. But yeah, really, really good stuff. Ricochet wins with a shooting star press in the end. And yeah, like I say, wrestling wise, in particular, I felt much happier after watching SmackDown. I felt a bit of relief after watching SmackDown.
100%, yeah.
The Raw after Mania. We also got Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus
this match, I was like, what is this? I was thinking, this is just pointless. I'm bored of this. I kind of had to eat my hat in a way, because I was looking at Liv and Raquel thinking, this is just a thrown together tag team. I don't really like them. But as we'll go to talk about on Raw, there's a sort of reason they were gaining momentum.
So that was the point of this match, was to give them a win before they obviously won the titles on Raw.
Yeah.
The match was okay. There wasn't a lot to say about it. I feel like Natalya and Shotzi is just a really weird team.
Well, that's what it felt like to me. They've just thrown two teams together here just for the sake of it. But I'm really interested to see what they do with Liv and Raquel, because I'm still not feeling that chemistry. They're two faces, but that's about it.
Yeah, the characters don't necessarily mesh well. In ring wise, they seem okay together.
Yeah, they're both good in ring, aren't they?
They haven't done enough yet as a team to just be like, wow, they've got great chemistry. But yeah, Natalya and Shotzi, I don't get. I don't think that would be a team going forward. I think that was just done for this WrestleMania showcase and for this, basically. Yeah, the match was okay. Not really a lot else to say about that. We'll talk about it more when we get to Raw. Triple H came out. That's probably the biggest.
So this is news, isn't it? But it's part of the.
But it's part of the show,
isn't it?
We'll mention it.
So this is interesting.
Yeah, and he was coming out, and I was thinking, oh, what's he going to say? Is he just going to say the same old spiel that he said on the Raw after Mania? Because if he does, then I'm going to start to worry. Because if he's coming out and saying everything's fine, guys, then normally that means if he keeps doing it, that's not a good sign. Yeah. But here he came out and just basically announced the WWE draft is taking place in a few weeks, with every brand and every superstar involved. And he said it's going to change the game. Now, I don't know what he means by that. He might just be trying to hype the draft up.
I think he's going to have a lot of NXT drafts. Well, I say a lot, a few, to mix it up.
I think some people might go the other way as well.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
To really make it interesting, I think you might get. I don't know how they're going to do the draft this year. I hope they do it in a more interesting way, because the last couple of years they've just had Stephanie McMahon read out the names. She's not even working for the company at the moment.
Really?
So, yeah. So is Triple H just going to come out and read names? Are they going to get? I would like to see them do it in a different manner. It's a shame they don't have general managers to do something like this. But yeah, I mean, they could use Adam Pearce or something, I guess. But I'm hoping they do it in a more interesting way. We get a couple of really cool call-ups, some surprises, maybe a big return as well would be good in the draft. You could Randy Orton comes out or something, and he's on like Raw or whatever. That would be really cool. I look forward to it, because I do think the rosters need a bit of a shake-up, and I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully, some fresh faces. Hopefully, some new pushes for guys we haven't seen much of recently as well. Any sort of brand switches you hope to see of any particular superstars?
Nothing really I hope to see, but I think we may see a split of maybe like Damage Control. I think could go
that was kind
either
of
way. Yeah, I think we're going to get that.
I'm just trying to think who I'd like to see go where. I don't know. It's hard to say actually.
It depends because Roman's still got both belts. It's difficult because I wouldn't mind seeing Seth move over to SmackDown to start chasing Roman or something like that, but it's difficult to say when both belts are just on one brand. So
yeah, exactly, and it's same with the tag belts as well. So it kind of throws that out the window a little bit.
Yeah, they both sort of roam, so it doesn't really matter really who's where. But it'll be good to have a bit of a shake up and get some new matchups, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that's what it leads to. We got a little video package for Shinsuke Nakamura's return this week on SmackDown. Been gone for quite a while. I think they're going to give him a bit of a renewed push. Again, he's someone Triple H really likes. The fact that they actually sort of did this video thing for him. I don't know what he's going to do this week, but I'm assuming he'll just have a random match against someone that will probably beat easily, and then maybe that'll build to him being in something bigger down the line. But cool, again, something fresh. And he's not with Boogs anymore, so maybe we're going to get more of a serious Nakamura presentation. That should be good. Looking forward to that this week, seeing what they do there.
Have we had a heel Nakamura?
Yes, we have during the AJ Styles feud, wasn't it?
Oh yes, I remember that. That's the point. I wonder when AJ Styles is going to return. Maybe he'll return.
It was someone I was thinking of in the draft that you could just bring out.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how close he is. Apparently, he's not that close from what I've heard, but that was a few weeks ago. That was before Mania, like that. So it could be by the time the draft comes around, he could be nearly back. He wouldn't have to wrestle. He could come out and be like, in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to be on the show. Rhea Ripley had a promo on the show as well, celebrating her WrestleMania win. And then that led to a match with Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio versus Dominic and Damian Priest. Decent match there. And the win went to Priest and Dom with a South of Heaven chokeslam. But they teased a bit here with Rhea Ripley and Zelina Vega.
Yeah, I liked that, although I think Zelina's just going to get absolutely destroyed.
Yeah, but it's not a bad. I think it's a decent first opponent for Rhea if they did that, because Zelina hasn't had much of a spotlight, and I think giving her a match like that will be good for her, even if she loses. I think that makes sense. I think do that as a singles feud, and then do. Obviously, I'm expecting the tag match at Backlash with Bad Bunny involved. But this feud's continuing. Again, match was decent. It was given some time. Not a lot else to say about it, but it was good.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It's nice to see different people getting a bit of a spotlight as well, which again shows that Vince wasn't there, because I don't think this would have happened otherwise.
No, exactly. He was only at the Raw after Mania, and last week I said hopefully that was just because he was there already, and it seems like that's going to be the case going forward. Maybe he'll come for some big shows, but hopefully he kind of keeps his nose out of most of it, and he'll have a look at the scripts, I'm sure. But as long as he doesn't make mass changes, I don't think they'll be too big an issue. Apparently, morale was much higher in a WWE locker room as well on Monday and Friday. So that's good. The main event of the show was a sort of really built match between Jey Uso and Sami Zayn, just kind of used on a throwaway SmackDown. I thought that was a little bit odd in a way, because that's like, a hot match to.
Yeah, definitely. Could have been at a pay-per-view, really.
Could have been at a pay-per-view easily, but I think they're doing. Obviously, we'll get to it, but they're going to do a 6-man tag team match, aren't they? At Backlash?
Yeah, I think so.
So before the match, Kevin Owens was attacked backstage by Solo Sikoa, meaning he couldn't go out to ringside. Good match again between Jey and Sami, as you'd expect, really. And then the Samoan Spike again took out Zayn before the referee's back. That's getting a little bit repetitive now, I have to say. Roman's won by a couple of times now. Usos doing it as well. And obviously a man down, Kevin Owens injured after the match. Jay and Solo attacking Sammy, but then Matt Riddle comes out and makes a save. And at first I was like, why? Like because he came out and returned on the Monday against The Miz.
Yeah.
At first I was like, why? But then they explained this. Solo Sikoa took him out months ago, and I was like, oh yeah, that did happen. Kind of forgot that had happened.
Yeah, I completely forgot until I had a quick look back, and I was like, oh yeah, I see why
so
he's
it did make
involved
sense.
now.
It was actually a long-term thing, but it looks like Riddle's getting thrust back into, we were sort of
the limelight, yeah,
but he's going to be like in a big main event sort of feud.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Good for him, I suppose. And yeah, he made a save here. I think that's about it from SmackDown.
Yeah, just you're starting to see the breakup of the bloodline sort of progressing, aren't we?
Yeah.
We had a promo earlier in the night where basically Reigns had told Jimmy to stay home, and the way Jay came out, I thought was brilliant sort of acting. The way Jay came out, he was like sort of looking at the floor, didn't look his usual confident self until he then finally put his wand up, which I just thought was great from Jay to portray that just through his body language. That's when you see a really talented wrestler, when he can do things like that, rather than just what he says.
Yeah, there's certainly the split that they're teasing between, particularly the Usos and Roman. I don't know about what Solo's going to do yet, but I think that they're drawing it out and they're keeping the storyline going. But it's very well done at the moment. It's sort of subtle at the moment, but it's definitely heading that way from the promos we're getting and things, and the little facial expressions and things we're getting. Anything else on SmackDown?
No, I think on to Raw, I believe.
Right, so let's talk about Raw. And this Raw wasn't affected by Vince McMahon changing the script at the last minute, but it was affected massively by travel issues. Reported before the show that they're going to be missing some roster members. I didn't know that watching it until I read it afterwards. I was thinking, where are some of the people that were advertised? Because obviously the Miz was advertised for a match. Seth Rollins wasn't there. There were 2 or 3 other people that I thought were definitely going to be on the show that weren't there. But considering they had all these issues, I thought they put on a pretty decent.
It was a good show, wasn't it? Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And they let the wrestlers wrestle longer, which is probably because they didn't have as many people there. They just thought, right, this match was only going to go 10, but let's do 15 because we're going to have to cut this segment out. So it kind of worked in a way. And there was some newsworthy stuff. Let's talk about. Let's start with the opener first. So Rey Mysterio opens the show, and cuts another promo. Again, the feud continuing with Dom. Dom getting mega heat still, which I love. It shows how far he's come. We've said it multiple times how great he's been in this feud.
Yeah.
And then Rey has a match with Finn Balor, and I was surprised Finn Balor competed, considering what he went through at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's interesting that he mentioned that about Edge, wasn't it? Saying about him splitting his head open. But yeah, it was interesting that he did. And I was a bit worried at one point. I was like, surely Finn is not going to lose another match. I guess. Was like, oh no. But yeah, thankfully he won, even though it was through sort of Dominic's doing. But
obviously due to the help of Dominic with the chain and whatever he had. But but Balor gets the win, which he badly needed after the defeat to Edge. Rey doesn't really lose anything from getting beaten by Balor in a sort of non-clean thing. No Damian Priest. I think he was one of the guys stuck in the traffic or whatever issues they had, because apparently he was meant to have a segment addressing Bad Bunny and the attack he did on him. That was nowhere to be seen. So I think they did this match instead, and it was, to be fair, in-ring wise, it was really good. It took a while to get going, but once it was going, it was. But it's Balor versus Mysterio. It should be good.
Of course, yeah, definitely on paper, it was good.
Exactly. And that was a good way to start Raw. And again, I was like, okay. So last week we got 1 hour of wrestling 1 minute of wrestling in the first hour, which was an Omos versus Elias match. This week we've got a 15-minute Rey Balor good match. So you can tell the difference on who's booking the shows based on that alone. Then we got a backstage angle where Lita had been attacked. And I never like it when they just replace someone into a tag team, but I guess if you
this worked, and I could see this coming. I really could see this coming.
I could see it coming as well, because all the rumors of Trish versus Becky and the Trish heel turn, we even predicted might happen at WrestleMania. Didn't.
Yeah.
But they didn't take long. I thought they might drag it out a bit longer, but they did it here. So Lita gets attacked. Trish offers to replace Lita in the match. Becky wants to defend the titles, which I understand why. She's like a babyface. She's like, look, we've got to fight. I'm not going to stop defending the titles just because of that. Trish takes Becky's place against Raquel and Liv. They have a decent match. I wouldn't say it was anything like spectacular, but it was given some time.
I was actually pleasantly surprised. But I think it's mainly because Becky carried it against Liv and Raquel,
didn't she?
Which I thought was really good, actually.
They teased a couple of near falls. There was a manhandle slam where Rodriguez pulled out Becky out of the ring at the last second. I thought that was going to win it for Becky and Trish. I thought maybe they were going to do a storyline where Becky and Trish win, and then because Trish won the title, retained the title, she was going to be like, no, I want to replace Lita. And then it was
that would have been good too.
Tension. And then that was when Trish turned. But no, they lost the titles. Which I guess makes sense, because you're not really going to have
Trish got pinned, didn't she?
And I was glad that it was Trish that took the pin, because Liv Morgan got a pinfall victory over Trish Stratus. Even if it was a roll up, it's still a big thing for her.
That is the one thing. It was a roll up, which was a shame. I wish it wasn't.
Yeah, but I guess for this it kind of made sense.
I guess Trish taking an Oblivion was probably unlikely.
Yeah, and it kind of works for the story afterwards. So she's frustrated because she just got rolled up, lost. And then you could see it coming, because the camera didn't go off them. They were hugging in the ring, talking for ages. I was like, something's happening here.
And then bam, to the back of the head, which I didn't think looked great, but the kick, I thought Trish's kick was actually really good. And the way Becky sold it was bang on.
I was going to say mainly due to Becky's brilliant selling here.
Yeah.
The way she fell and not bad. Yeah,
it was brilliant.
Done
I wonder if we're going to get Lita versus Trish first.
Maybe. My only issue with that is, will that actually be good in 2023? I'm hoping it will be, and I'm interested.
If they're clever about it and they don't try and out wrestle themselves and they just have a pretty swift match, I think it'll be okay. But I think they might do that. I don't know, possibly Backlash.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if there's
Jeddah.
I was going to say, it wouldn't surprise me if there's a big women's match in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia, because they do like to put in one big marquee women's match on now. And Lita wrestled there last year, didn't she? Against Becky Lynch. So maybe they would want a legend, because they like having their legend.
And then you probably get Trish win, and then she faces Becky at SummerSlam.
That I'd be all for. I think that would actually work perfectly if they did it that way. Trish beats Lita.
It's a long time to drag it out, but I guess if they're not on TV every week, you can get there. Lita can certainly have a few weeks off now after the attack.
Exactly. Yeah, Lita will have a few weeks because she's injured.
A few promos.
Trish maybe does one promo like next week or the week after, but you don't need to have her there every week. And then you can drag this out for a little while. Becky can still be there. She doesn't need to wrestle much, but she can cut promos as well. I think you can make this go on for a while. Really interesting storyline. I like it a lot. I like the use of the women's legends here in a big storyline. It feels important. And it's good. I really like it. The next match we got was Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed. Big men slapping meat. We always like to see that. And this was an excellent brawl. Ended in a double count out, which normally wouldn't be a finish I like. But on this occasion, I actually think this really worked. And I'm glad Bronson...
Two big old beasts.
This, if Vince McMahon booked this match, Lashley wins in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
He's probably like, who's Bronson Reed? Do you know what I mean? But they've made Bronson Reed look like a badass here. because he hangs in there with Lashley, and they brawl after the bell rings. Outside they have to be separated.
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
They do this match again at Backlash, but with a stipulation. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it'd be great for Bronson Reed. They're really booking him very strong, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm really glad because I think he's got so much potential, and a crowd here got into him because he's in the ring with someone like Bobby Lashley, who's really popular and very well known, and he held his own, and that helps you. You don't have to necessarily win, but if you can put up a fight and look badass, which is what he did, then I think that was a really smart booking of the match, actually. Really interesting feud. Not two people expected to.
No, it gives Lashley something interesting to do, which is quite cool. He's sort of on the back foot, really. As well.
Because I feel like normally the last year or two, he's been involved in either the US title or the main title. He doesn't necessarily need belts, but yeah, this was really good. I enjoyed this a lot. Next up, we got Cody.
Yes.
With an in-ring promo. I'll let you go first on this one. What did you make of this?
The bit that stood out to me is the fact he mentioned the rubber chicken, which got thrown in the ring after, which made me laugh. Which I like it when they address things like that because it was there on the camera. So
it was such a Cody promo to do. Like everything about it, like mentioning that is, everything he talked about was like, this is typical Cody. He talked about going away, talked about his friend Matt, which I think he was on about Matt Cardona because Matt Cardona referenced it on Twitter. But it could have been Matt Jackson from the Young Bucks. It could have been anyone. I was like, which Matt is he on about here? But apparently it was Matt Cardona when he said, you got to the main event of WrestleMania. But really, really good promo. And what surprised me is he challenged Brock to a match at Backlash. I didn't think Brock would be working Backlash, to be honest. I thought this has got Saudi Arabia written all over it. But it looks like it's happening at Backlash, unless Brock comes next week and says no. But the fact they've teased it makes me think they're going to do this at Backlash, and that's a huge match to do at Backlash. And
I guess it gives Roman pay-per-view off, doesn't it?
Yeah, Roman's not going to be wrestling at this pay-per-view. Like we said earlier, I mean, we didn't say what a six-man tag match is going to be, but it's pretty obviously going to be Kevin, Sammy, and Riddle versus the Usos and Solo at Backlash as a tag match. And then hopefully you get Lashley and Bronson in some sort of stipulation, and then to do Cody and Brock alongside that as well. That's shaping up to be a pretty good Backlash card. So very interesting. What I did like here as well, we speculated last week maybe the Lesnar attack on Cody was something to do with Paul Heyman, and Cody kind of teased that in this promo by saying, I know you're watching, and if you're not watching, someone that represents you will be.
Yeah, I caught that bit.
Referring to Heyman. So I thought, well, is he thinking that he did this because Heyman paid Lesnar off or something, and he's involved in this somewhere? Which makes it quite interesting. Because at the moment, Lesnar's reasoning for the attack on Cody doesn't make any sense to me. Because they kind of said on commentary that it was to do with the fact that Cody main evented WrestleMania and Lesnar opened the show. But why would Lesnar
that's a lame idea, isn't it? Yeah, I hope that's not the case.
I don't think that's the story.
You wouldn't have such an aggressive attack over that.
No. I don't think that makes any sense. That's kind of weak and lame if that's the case.
That'd be terrible. Yeah. But no, I look forward to that match, and I think it's just a build for Cody, isn't it?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know whether he's going to win or lose, which makes it interesting. Because if he wins, then obviously you build back to him getting his rematch with Roman next. But they could drag this out even further, have Cody lose, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. Then he keeps losing, and he goes on this streak, and then he has to come back round and then maybe he wins Money in the Bank, and that's how he gets his title shot. I don't know, but there's many ways you can go with this that make it interesting.
I hope they don't make him too weak.
I hope he beats Brock, but it is Brock, so you never know.
I think they should. Point. I think he should, because that a win over Brock really gives anyone a
that's massive,
like a massive boost.
Yeah, and they don't just have anyone beat Brock. I mean, Roman hardly beat Brock until that last one. He did. Are you ready for a top mark? Because I'm in the mood for one.
Let's go. Yeah. Let's have a top mark.
Unexpected sort of random match added last minute to the card ended up being an absolute banger between the Usos and the Alpha Academy.
Oh yeah.
I was going to top my.
I was excited for this straight away when I saw it written down on the
Yeah.
the
Now
start of the
apparently
show.
this match only happened because of the travel issues. So this was something that was added last minute. But what a match this was. So good to watch. The Usos are fantastic. Gable and Otis are fantastic. Otis added a real good comedy element to it as well that I liked, particularly at the start of the match. And the crowd was so into the Alpha Academy here, which I loved.
Yeah,
because
it's brilliant, isn't it?
Normally they're the heels and they're up against the face team, but they were like, well, no, we'll put Alpha Academy in with, I'm assuming like the Street Profits or someone was supposed to be in this match, but they probably weren't there. And because neither was Bianca Belair, was she?
No, it was a great showing for them, wasn't it? When you say how many people weren't there, it really shows how strong their roster is now. The fact that they managed to carry it without needing the likes of Seth, Belair, Miz
and
there.
they even have Dolph Ziggler versus Tyler Bate on main event. That's a Raw match you could do. I mean, Tyler Bate's not on Raw, but still.
Tyler Bate versus
what?
I mean, we love Tyler Bate and Ziggler, but
apparently the crowd were into it. I went to watch it this morning. I must get round to it. And obviously, I watched Dynamite this morning, and in the end, I didn't have time. But I think
that's your task, and you should do a review on YouTube of just that match.
Just of that match.
Just Tyler Bate versus Dolph Ziggler.
Anyway, going well off topic here, but yeah, considering that was, they were short on roster, but like you said, they have got the depth now, which is good. Yeah, and this was such a good match. Obviously, in the end, the 1D win for the Usos, which is the correct result.
I love the 1D because they just could bang it out of nowhere.
Yeah, and obviously after they lost their titles, now they seem to be picking up wins again now, the Usos, which is funny because they were losing before when it wasn't title matches. But yeah, really good match. Really enjoyed that. That took up a good section of Raw. Again, sometimes these things are a blessing because you just get really good wrestling. And this show had a lot of that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Something that's the next match, you finished talking about that one. Yeah, so the next match we had Piper Niven, Mishin versus Io Sky, and it's interesting how this came about because we had a promo earlier in the night where Bayley basically came out of I think it was Adam Pearce's office saying, "Oh, I've got myself like a number one contender match." And Damage Control actually sort of kicked off, didn't they, at Bayley, saying, well, this should be our opportunity. You've had your chance. You've fluffed it. And this was great because we're starting to see that friction and the potential split, which I think is probably time to head towards, especially since Bayley's actually had a pretty rough week time of it. And we find out that Io Sky actually replaces Bayley, which is quite cool. I was watching Bayley quite closely when Io actually won the match.
So was I.
But,
and on the way to the ring even.
Yeah, she looked sort of, she wasn't too obvious, but it was obvious that she wasn't quite into the fact that she just won.
The ring, she was basically like, normally, they're like all together, they're like, jumping up. She was just like walking down to the ring with her head down to the ground, almost like not interested. So yeah, they were definitely teasing that Bayley's not happy. And I don't think the other two are happy with her because, like I say, she kind of steals the limelight. I thought this was really well done. And Io won the triple threat match against Michin and Doudrop, Piper Niven, sorry. Don't know why I won.
Yeah, getting the pin on Michin as well. I think Michin's been a bit buried since AJ Styles.
Yeah, since that all disappeared. I mean, she's one of those people. She was kind of brought back as a roster filler member. I don't think she's ever going to win titles, but she's decent and can carry. Like, you can have good TV matches. Doudrop is also. I keep calling her Doudrop now. Of all those times,
you always wanted her to be Piper.
Yeah, now she's Piper, and I'm calling her Doudrop. But she was also really good. The match was good, but Io stood out, and an Io singles run. I'm all there for it. So yeah, we're going to get Io versus Bianca, which we have seen before, but not like for the title or anything. Obviously, we've seen it before in the build up to some of obviously during the Bianca Bayley feud, we've seen it, but we haven't seen it in quite some time. So, and if it's done at the pay-per-view, which I suspect it probably will be, then that'll be given really good time, and EO will get a real good showcase then.
Yeah, that's going to be a belter, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then on to the main event.
Yeah, so the main event, Solo Sikoa versus Kevin Owens, which is a match we've seen maybe a bit too many times now, but it's still in this hot feud, and it's maybe not quite as hot as it was before Mania, but it's still good. And KO obviously got that big injury on SmackDown where Solo attacked him, so he wasn't at 100%. They had a really good main event, another really good match. KO refusing to give up and just kept bouncing back, like kicking out of everything. But eventually, interference allowed the Samoan Spike, and no one kicks out of the Samoan Spike. It's such a well-protected move, and Solo's been so well protected. They're building him as a future star, and what I like is they are starting to build these future stars. Dominic, Theory, and Solo spring to mind in this division. There's 3 people that they're really protecting.
They needed that as well, didn't they? It was getting into a bit of a sorry state of aging roster.
No new stars at all. And yeah, Solo wins with the Samoan Spike, and then Usos obviously 3-on-1 attack, and then through backstage, late arriving, and that is legit because apparently they arrived at the show half an hour before the end of the show because the travel.
That's cool.
Sami Zayn and Riddle. Sami Zayn and Riddle.
Riddle running in his flip-flops.
Yeah, not in their ring gear at all because they didn't have ring gear with them, I don't think. Literally run through and then save the day, and then that's when you get the stare down, which obviously sets up the 6-man tag that we're going to get at WrestleMania Backlash, or Backlash, I think it's just called, but yeah.
No, I think they did call it WrestleMania Backlash, unless they got it wrong on the show.
Cody did on the show, and I was like, are they calling it WrestleMania Backlash? But then I saw it on NXT, during they advertised it, and they just called it Backlash, so I don't know.
I think it should just be called Backlash, because not many of the matches are from WrestleMania.
No, they're not really. So yeah, I don't know. But
yeah, overall, a good week of wrestling.
Yeah, really solid matches, storyline progression, new feuds set up in places, old feuds continuing. No massive returns or anything. Obviously, we've got the Riddle one on the Raw.
Yeah,
but I feel like they're coming in the draft. I feel like they're bring people back bit by bit. That's what Triple H was doing at the start as well, wasn't he? With the signings,
yeah.
When he was bringing people back. You'd get one week, and 2 weeks later, someone else would come back. I prefer that than doing 10 on one show and then not doing any for months.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Hopefully we get a bit of spread out there. Really looking forward to Backlash. I think the card's looking good. Then we've got, it won't be long then till we got our Money in the Bank show. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty solid, not spectacular, but decent enough week if WWE. And yeah, just pleased that seemingly Triple H is being allowed to do what he wants to do, which is definitely a good thing. And it makes me a lot less worried about going forward. And especially as we're going to, a massive show live in a couple of months. Hopefully we
get a Triple H show.
Yeah, exactly. I want a Triple H show. I can't see Vince traveling to the UK. Can you?
No.
So I think we're safe.
Brilliant. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Recharge Wrestle. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a like and subscribe. And if you are not on YouTube, you can find us Recharge Wrestling. Just search for us and you'll find us. And we'll see you again next week.
Yep. See you soon, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.